Kidding. I'm kidding. Let's be honest. We have the James Magazine Person of the Year or whatever it is, whatever it's called in the room. So his opinion is the only opinion that matters. I saw that come through, Russell. I'm just going to filibuster here for a second. And not only are you on the cover, but then everybody bought an ad and put your picture in the ad. So anybody who, I guess, wants to build a road, build an airport, do anything, felt the need to. Chairman Burns, did you know we have the James Magazine Person of the Year in the room this morning?
No way. Where is he? Oh, there he is.
And I was just commenting that not only is he on the cover and there's like a 2-page spread, but then you go to the back of the magazine, there's an ad. You go to the front, there's an ad, and it's all congratulations, Commissioner McMurray. So I would say let us be the first to congratulate you, but the rest of the state has already congratulated you apparently. So let us be the next to congratulate you. And Chairman, I was going to get this started so that I guess you and I are the only two opinions that are going to matter in the room.
I believe you're correct, Mr. Chairman.
Let the record show that those not in attendance this morning are Chairman Clint Dixon,
That's correct.
who I saw in the gym, so I know he's on the
He's
campus.
somewhere in the neighborhood.
He may be in makeup, but I think that he goes to makeup before he comes into here. Majority Leader Steve Gooch is not in the room this morning.
The leader. Where could he be?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Chairman Brandon Beach actually has he called? Let me know.
Oh, you mean he has an excused absence?
He has an excused absence. You know, we are citizen legislators.
Indeed, we are.
He's got a full-time job, and I'm gonna go. And so he's got some work this morning.
Okay.
Senator Sonia Halpern's not with us this morning.
Oh, my. Oh.
Senator Valencia C's not with us this
Oh,
morning. And Emmanuel Jones, who, as a owner of a car dealership, has great valuable input on transportation. So I hope he gets here this morning. But we are going to hear this morning, Mr. Chairman, from DDS.
Fantastic.
Office of Highway Safety,
Wonderful.
the Man of the Year.
Oh, and the man of the year, of course. Oh.
You're the man of the hour.
Chairman Ginn.
Chairman Ginn, you were
Ginn.
just being called out, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
I actually didn't call him out.
That's right.
You can call me anything you want to, just don't call me late for breakfast.
You are definitely not that. Did you know, Mr. Chairman, that the James Magazine Person of the Year is in the room right
Is it
now?
attended?
I've seen it. It's amazing.
I
His
want an
head
autograph.
fit through the door.
Could we get an autographed copy of that? Perhaps, Mr. Chairman, could we request maybe a photo op with?
Perhaps we need a budget line item.
Yes,
And we can do a billboard.
absolutely.
Okay, we'll work on that.
On an interstate.
Not on the state highway though.
No, on an interstate.
And we're going to hear from Janine Miller. Who is Janine in the room yet this morning? I've got some commentary when Janine gets in the room. But Spencer, we're going to go ahead and start with DDS. And I do want to comment, Chairman, that we would love to be working off of a House budget this morning.
We would.
Yeah.
We don't have one.
Oh, no.
I went over this morning, and we looked across the hall. They were starting a meeting late over there. We had a deal that they were supposed to give us a budget by
It was an
crossover
agreement,
day.
wasn't it, Mr.
It
Chairman?
was an agreement.
It was an agreement.
So we're going to have to do what we did again last year,
Oh,
which
no.
is work off the governor's budget.
It's a good place to
and-
start,
Hopefully sometime this week we'll see a House budget.
perhaps.
The good news is you have tremendous staff that can help us through this.
They do yeoman's work dealing with a budget in about 8 days. I'm sorry that you're put in this position again. Perhaps the House budget staff will recruit some of the Senate staff next year to make things happen a little bit quicker. How you doing this morning, good sir?
I am well, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Did you know that we have the James Magazine Person of the Year?
I am aware now. I cannot believe it. I can't even be the Man of the Year in the Dublin Career Herald, and that's my hometown newspaper. So it is exciting that I'm in the room with him, and I've known him so long.
Spencer, you're leading a national group, right?
I am leading it.
President of the national.
Oh, no, really?
Are you? Tell us more about that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I am the chair of the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators, which is the DMV administration organization that is leading not just the United States, but Canada. As chair of that,
Congratulations.
it's a pretty big deal. First time a Georgian that's ever led it in its 90-year history.
I love it. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.
That's fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sure you got it largely because of your expertise in the subject matter, but do you think that the fact that you're so well dressed played a role?
It's
And-
probably because I know the James Madison of
There
the
you
Year
go.
magazine, Man of the Year. That's
I think the
probably
pocket
why.
squares might have put it over the top, to be honest with you.
Thank you, sir. Thank
What do you
sir.
have for us this morning?
We have a presentation that we put in before the committee, and we certainly thank you all for your generous support in the amended budget, and certainly want to further some of those requests in the big budget for 25. So if you would, Mr. Chairman, we again have put together a presentation. If you go to page 3 of that, we'll just start there because the first couple slides are just introductory slides. But if you get to the statewide ads, unless there's questions about those, certainly won't really pay a whole lot of time on those. Just would first like to say thank you. The 4% cost of living adjustment is a real big deal for our staff. We have, as you know, roughly 900 or so folks at the Department of Driver Services. 705 of them work inside of centers. And they, quite frankly, any elevation in salary for them is a big deal. And if you'll note on your performance sheet, the retention is increasing because of the increases in salary. So we're certainly appreciative of the governor's support as well as OPB and the House and Senate for that. And we also have, I want to point specifically to our law enforcement team at DDS because we currently have 14 hired law enforcement personnel who work at the Department of Driver Services. These are completely statewide sworn law enforcement officers who are working diligently to investigate fraud in our organization. I met one of the latest additions just yesterday in our new employment orientation, so we're happy to see them also get the $3,000 targeted raise, so we're appreciative of that on line 119.5. But I will get specifically to the agency requests that are not statewide ads, which the first one is on line 119.6. It's an increase for $166,925 for our continued use of the SAVE verification program. As you all are aware, SAVE is the System Alien Verification Enterprise Service that we use. That's from the Department of Homeland Security and USCIS. Every person who cannot come into our location and present a birth certificate, certificate of naturalization, or some form of documentation that shows that they are a U.S. citizen, every one of those other persons are required to get this, go through this program. The federal government has increased the cost of it. Every time we run that, that's currently $1 for each run of the individual who might come in with the requisite documents. It's going to be increased to $1.50 this fall, and you can see each year, we came with this request last year, and I have on the second bullet in that presentation the increase that will continue through FY28. It will increase 50 cents until it tops out at $3.10 in FY 2008. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Moore said one of the things that it's been several years back, but under the Obama administration, they were saying, hey, these people that are coming in here illegally, they have status in the U.S., and we were issuing those people driver's licenses in Georgia. Are we still issuing illegal aliens that are coming into our country without documentation and paperwork, the driver's licenses in Georgia?
Very good question. And honestly, what we issue is based on whether or not they've declared to the United States government that they are here. So their determination as to their status is a federal requirement. That's not one that Georgia weighs in on. If they are able to pass that system alien verification service, then they are able to get credentialed.
So somebody comes in the country illegally, wherever, they fall out of Mars to get here. they don't declare status, they just go and apply for a driver's license.
They will not get a service. That individual will not get a service.
Okay, so if they declare themselves, hey, I'm here, and I came in illegally, but I was, prosecuted in my former country, I'm looking for some other, sanctuary, we give them a Georgia driver's license?
They might be eligible for a driver's license, yes, sir.
Okay, and I think the Gold Star, I'm not sure what
That's the Real ID designation.
Do they get a Gold Star on their driver's license?
As you know, we're the only state, well, we're not the only state, but we're one of few states that only issues a Real ID compliant license. So we don't issue a different type of license.
So they get a Real ID, even though we don't know anything about them, they don't have any paperwork. They said, hey, I'm here as looking for a refuge from another country.
The same organization that runs the SAVE program also runs the Real ID program.
And does anybody else see a problem in that?
I do want to drill down on that for a second. So someone crosses the border illegally, makes an asylum claim. They're given an appearance date in court. They're in the state of Georgia. They come and they apply for a driver's license. I think you said that they might. What's the trigger there? Like that determines whether
the trigger is going to be whether or not we to our knowledge, and this is certainly for an agency. Our goal is simply to run the individual to make sure that they have status. In other words, that they have declared themselves with paperwork properly in order to get this status. But we don't run the SAVE system, so we don't have another way of determining that individual's status.
So essentially, you're checking to ensure this person is declared to be in the United States,
yes.
whether documented or documented,
yes,
legal
sir.
or illegal. If they get essentially a hit in the federal system, currently Georgia statute allows them
Yes, it
to
does.
have a license.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And these people, because I got hit in an automobile accident, said and I look at it and I'm like, okay. So one of the things we were excited about, everybody looked like they had insurance.
Yes, sir.
After we leave the scene, said the insurance company, it's not working out that well. Said so I got to pay for my own thing, and I know this happens to thousands and thousands of Georgians all over the state every week. And to me, what can we do to combat that? What can we do? Why do we issue licenses? Can we just say no? We're not going to issue a license to.
I only issue based on state law.
I think that's up to you, Chairman, and the rest of us, and it's not up to.
I only issue based on state law.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Senator Burns.
Just to follow up just a second. If I present myself and I clear the SAVE system and you issue me a driver's license.
Yes, sir.
Is that driver's license designated as an alien license or is that designated as a resident license?
It's designated as a license that's issued to a person who's a non-citizen. Remember, they don't get the same term that you or I would get as citizens. They would only get a term that is equal to their limited stay. So in many cases, that term is up to 2 years. Could be a period that's less than that. Whatever the SAVE program runs and says that's the length of time that they have to be in the United States. That's how long their license is. It's not the 8-year period in which most persons who are U.S. citizens get.
Is that clearly designated on the license?
Yes, sir. It's clearly
So
designated that
look at the
it's
difference
different.
between a resident license and a non-resident license.
It does have a designation that they are different. Let me say it that way. They are different.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned about the current system of motor voter registration.
Yes, sir.
So explain that to me between the difference between someone who comes in and goes through the SAVE system and how would they be handled versus a Georgia resident?
Well, remember, my mission is to issue driver's license. I don't register. I send information over to the Secretary of State's office and local boards of registrations who issue voter privileges. That's not something that my department does.
Thank you.
I send that information over, and then they determine how it's used.
You have, when you send that database over, I assume that you have database entries that differentiate between the two types of licenses.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Great.
Absolutely.
One more. I'm looking at my license. If I got an alien license, Sadia, what would it look like?
I can send you a copy of that. It would have, I'm trying to remember exactly. Limited term.
Limited term. That's the only thing that, and I've asked several police officers, back a few years ago when this first arose from my radar, do you know what limited term means? And none of them. I asked a dozen police officers, and none of them knew what limited term meant. That's the only thing that it says on that license between a citizen license and a non.
Yeah, I'm not sure the length of stay that those police officers, but all of our Georgia issuances.
One of them was the police chief in Athens, Georgia.
Yes, sir. We educate the law enforcement community about all of our license issued and the types and the designations that they have. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one last one, then we'll get back to the
I apologize. A follow-up to Senator again. Is it prudent to clearly designate this as a limited alien license?
That's a policy decision, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And one at that department, again, we issue laws. We issue on the basis of the laws and statutes that are set before the agency.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Moving to the next line item, which is 119.7, is cloud solution and maintenance, amount at $1,980,000. This is a request that follows one that was in the amended. As you all are aware, our agency, along with many others, are moving our information into the government cloud. This is a platform change for us. We currently have 2 data centers, one that's located in Dallas, Texas. The backup is located in Pasadena, California. And our goal here is to move to the most stringent U.S. government security and compliance cloud migration service possible with our vendor who helps us issue these licenses. This is a NIST standard, FedRAMP, GovCloud, that's scalable, reliable, and secure. Currently, we have 86 million records, driver and identity records in our system that we work very, very hard to ensure that it is secure.
86 million records?
86 million records. We have records dating back well into the 80s, in some cases the 70s. So if you need those photos of if we have them still, many of them from those days we have on microfiche.
So I see this 1.98 million in the governor's budget. I don't see it in the House budget. Did it make the House budget?
Yes, sir. It did make the House budget.
How do we know?
How do I know?
How do we know?
How do we know? I'm not sure. We presented it before the House.
How about the 166,000? Did that make the House budget?
Yes, sir.
It did? How do we know? I'm just asking a question.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Moving to line item 119.8, that's found on page 5. This is a postage rate increase of $341,057. This is the same amount that was requested and amended. This request is based on the fact that the U.S. Postal Service has increased its rates. As far back as 2019, we were paying 55 cents to mail something out. Now we're paying 68 cents to mail it out. So we're requesting this $341,057 in order to essentially keep us whole as it relates to the increase of the postage rate. And last items that I'll speak to quickly is line item 119.9, which is the reduction of operating funds. These are efforts that we obviously have worked with OPB in order to put into the process so that the agency can go about continuing to achieve its mission, but using technology in order to do that. I'm happy to state that just this week we'll be unveiling some kiosk operations in our self-service options in our center this week for renewal options only. So if you have a credential and you're trying to renew it for limited services, obviously some people won't have the opportunity to use that. And also we will be closing the Helena Center. That's a part-time center. The staff is out of Dublin, and they travel down to Helena. But as you know, we'll be opening a commercial motor vehicle testing site in Hazelhurst, which is the county over in the coming months. So those are the reductions that we have provided. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my comments, and certainly I'm here to answer any questions that the committee might have.
Those last three items that you just, well, let me ask about the kiosks first. Are those new? Are those in every location?
They won't be in. They'll be in some of the highest volume locations. 22 of the highest locations, highest volume locations. That's a budget request that was approved last year, and we're very thankful for that. But this again is state of the art. We aren't aware of any DMV in the country that is offering that self-service option. But this is to combat the increasing number of persons that we serve without asking for more staff.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Congratulations again on your national role. Certainly appreciate you representing Georgia.
Yes, sir.
And appreciate you presenting to us today.
Yes, sir.
Next up is going to be Alan Poole with Office of Highway Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moore, I want to thank you for every time I get a constituent that has an issue, you're Johnny on the spot, and you take care of things, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
While Mr. Poole's coming forward, just want to welcome Chairman Dixon and Senator Halpern and point out two important things to you. One, a James Magazine Person of the Year is in the room. A James Magazine Person of the Year is in the room. But you, Senator Halpern, were also highlighted in James Magazine as a featured legislator. So our stock is going up. Secondly, I want to point out to both of you that we're working off the governor's budget because despite a deal that was struck earlier this year to get a House budget by day 28, we don't have one yet. Senator Halpern, what day are we on in the legislature?
It would be day 30.
Day 30.
Day 30.
That's past day 28,
It is
right?
past day 28.
And are we going to, I don't even think we're going to have a House budget today on day 30. I'm hearing maybe we won't have one until 31 or 32, Chairman Dixon. Do you have any thoughts on how difficult that makes our work here in the Senate?
Very difficult, Mr. Chairman, and, seeing that they're going to be over a week late, it really constricts the time in appropriations, as you well know as Vice Chair. Having a week left to the changes they've got and get everything done before.
And Chairman, you're on rules. Do you think that and we've had some commentary on that perhaps they've been so busy passing Senate bills, and that's the reason that we're getting the budget this late? Is that?
No, that is not true. They're not busy passing Senate bills. Not sure what they're doing over in the House, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Halpern, maybe you could take a walk across the hall today and report back as to
will
what
try.
exactly is going on over there.
Take a peek.
Okay, thank you.
What they're up to.
Thank you. Thank you all. How you guys doing? I'm going to turn on witness 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
Mr. Poole, maybe you could introduce us to your team here. I guess I would ask you, did you know that we have a James Magazine Person of the Year in the room today?
I do know that, thank you.
Have you ever been James Magazine Person of the Year?
No, sir, I have not.
Could we nominate you for next year, perhaps?
You're more than welcome.
Okay, I think we'll look into that. Thank you for being here today. We've got 2 handouts from you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and the fellow committee senators for being
Before you start, you're going to walk us through your budget here and your requests. How many of your requests made the House budget?
one.
How do we know?
It's on the track list.
All right. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. All right, what do you have for us today?
All right, well, I appreciate the opportunity for being here to present my budget. Section 39, Public Safety, defer your attention to page 4. But without me belaying the issue, I want to again also thank the governor and OPB for their kind generation of a 4% cost of living adjustment. But what I want to bring to your attention is line 270.4, which is a request from us due to the fact that NHTSA, our partners, have requested that we fund a community engagement coordinator position to coordinate events throughout the state of Georgia. NHTSA also ruled and documented their participation. This is a engagement for communities that have been least impacted adversely and disproportionately. And so what they've done increased their percentage from 15 to 18%. So we have requested so that we could collaborate more with community leaders and members because of the disproportionate adversely impact. And so they bring this position so that we can reach these communities that has been adversely, disproportionately impacted. So that was the request for the funding, which you can see on the track list. 270.4, it was a $65,000 increase. So we have that, the House presented that, and that's our request as well to address that need, Mr. Chairman. I yield to any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
Done a good job.
Thank you, and we'll be waiting to see if these ads make the House budget whenever it comes over, and we'll certainly take it into consideration over here in the Senate.
Well, thank you, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Josh Turner, the Commissioner Driver
Great.
Education.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, good morning.
Did you know there's a James Magazine Person of the Year
I was aware
in
of
the
that.
room?
It's a very high honor. I'd just like to bring your attention on page 5 and 6 of the track sheet, 271.1 thousand. We don't have any specific ads. This is a continuation. If you'll draw your attention to the presentation, it looks like this. On page 3, so this is for funding for the Georgia Drivers Education Commission Grant Scholarship Program for drivers training. These fees are a surcharge on traffic citations, and it does fund the commission. It was originally set at 5% in 2005, down to 1.5% in 2013, and then 3% in 2023. I would bring your attention to the fact that there were no funds collected in fiscal year 2023 because there was a sunset in place, and that bill did not make the final cut on signing.
This is what's commonly known as Joshua's Law?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And the asterisk down at the bottom there, there was $80 million that was generated during the recession in 2008 that was not appropriated to driver training despite the intended purpose of the legislation. Our program, just to give you a little history on it, so our eligibility is open to anyone who has a driver's license or instructional permit between the ages of 15 and 17. They must agree to complete a driver training course that has 30 hours of classroom training and 6 hours behind the wheel training. And they must meet the financial need eligibility, which is 175% of the free and reduced lunch level in the state of Georgia. We have 2 priority levels on page 5. Tier 1 gives priority to a child or dependent of a public safety professional killed or disabled in the line of duty, a child or dependent of a military professional killed in the line of duty, and children in custody of DFACs. Tier 2 is everyone else who applies that meets the eligibility based on the financial need. Because of that shortfall that we had in 2023 with the legislation not passing, we have been significantly affected this year. Fortunately, that's been corrected in the conference committee report. We received about $712,000 to help with that. So we're able to award about 600 scholarships per month through the rest of this fiscal year, where we were only awarding about 150 in the first 6 months of the fiscal year.
Did you say it's per month or did you say total?
Per month.
Okay. Let him get through the rest of it, and then I'll take questions.
That's
Did
all,
you have anything
that's
else?
all I
Well,
had.
there you go. All right, Chairman Ginn.
In your tier 1, the last sentence, those are kids in foster homes.
Right.
Who's providing the vehicle that they're driving for that 6 hours?
The driving school.
Okay, and because I know I got a brother that's fostered some kids, and he said he was in an awkward position because he wanted to help his foster child to get better trained in driving and stuff, but he was fully exposed if there was an accident, and that's I don't know if there's a way to fix that, but any ideas that you have on what we can do to limit the liability of those foster parents that want to help teach their kids to drive, because otherwise you're turning an 18-year-old out on the roadways that doesn't get that experience and doesn't have it. So any ideas that you have, if you'll share them with those offline.
Well, just let me explain. In 2018, we did run a pilot program for those students where we actually paid them to get their 40 hours of supervised driving that's required before they can obtain their license, to do that with a driving school. We did that with DFACs. Unfortunately, we just didn't have a lot of people that expressed interest in it. We did have some, and those that did were able to get their license and hopefully are now living independently and are able to maintain a job and have a way to get there. But there was just not a lot of interest at the time. That was around 2018, I believe. So, but would certainly be open to assisting those students in any way that we can in the future. Thank you for the question.
Any other questions? Anything else y'all have?
No, sir.
Thank you guys for the hard work you do. Certainly appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
If you happen to see a house budget out there in the hallway, could you bring it in to us? We'd love to take a look at it. All right, next up, the man of the hour. The man of the year, Chairman Burns, actually, not hour. I think that would be appropriate, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner of the Department of Transportation,
And James
Magazine.
Man of the Year.
Were you Man of the Year, Person of the Year? What's the official? Do you have a copy? George, I've been misquoting
of the Year.
it. Georgian of the Year. Senator Halpern, how many Georgians are there?
Oh, wow.
There are 11 million.
I have 11 million people. We have the one person in front of us this morning who is recognized as Person of the Year. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate the subtle acknowledgement of this great award bestowed upon me, but that award is only because of the hardworking men and women at GDOT, several of who are here with me today. Our Budget Director, George Christensen, we put his hand up, our Director of Finance, Kirkley Renwick, and Angela Whitworth, our treasurer. And of course, y'all may have met Josh Waller from time to time over here. Yeah, well, that's what I said. You may have met him, but I know you know Abby Handel, who's sitting next to him. But I certainly appreciate that, again, subtle acknowledgement that you've given to me this morning, Mr. Chairman, and look forward to presenting a FY 25 governor's recommendation.
Well said. Well said.
Well said.
Great way to start.
Just to cut to the chase, there is a handout. Make sure you have your handout. And so let me just jump in on the second slide of the handout. You all have seen this slide as a conditioning slide, but always remind you that our budget is comprised of really 4 fund sources, being excise tax, the Transportation Trust Fund that came about from HB 170 back in 2015 of an alternative vehicle fee, annual heavy vehicle impact fee, and the hotel fees. That constitutes the Transportation Trust Fund. And what almost sounds exactly like that is the Transit Trust Fund, which are the rideshare fees or the 50 cent per ride or 25 cent per ride if you split a ride with a ride service, a taxi, or a black car service, and then state general fund. So those are our 4 revenue sources. And since I was with you last time, I did mention, I guess, Mr. Chairman, in your Transportation Committee, I mentioned about the federal situation that we're going through. And as you all have seen, the federal government has continued to do continuing resolutions. We have one that goes all the way to Friday right now. So we're working on a week's worth of federal funding. So that has certain impacts and complications on how we deliver projects, but just to put that on your radar, we'll see what happens, but we are desperately needing our federal funding to do the projects that we need to continue to advance.
Commissioner, would you say that we're more desperately needing federal funding or a House version of the state budget?
Well, I think that's a very fair question, and I think they're both critically important to this state so that we can move transportation forward.
Great. I wonder which we'll have first this week.
That is a good question, sir.
We'll see.
All right. If you flip over to the next slide, slide 3, this is the revenue request, the comparison request, starting with the base, showing what the changes are and resulting in a $2.5 billion total budget, state budget. Now, that is a robust budget. It was a lot more exciting to talk about the amended year, which was $3.85 billion, but $2.5 billion is still a very solid budget number, and I should say, we're most thankful for your work on the amended year budget as well. We were thankful for what the Senate did and getting that to the governor to be signed. So that was fantastic. Thank you all for your work in.
And I think it is only fair to give the governor credit for bringing the $1.5 billion to the table in the amended, allowing us to tweak it just a little bit. But his leadership on that is certainly appreciated and positions the state to make the investments, to make the investments that we need in infrastructure moving forward.
It will make a positive difference. Just a couple of reminders. So excise, the revenue number is based on the prior year's collection. So the $73.4 million add is based on interest earnings and prior year collections total. And then the Transportation Trust Fund fees and the Transit Trust Fund fees are a 2-year look back. So that's actually revenues collected 2 years ago, appropriated into the FY25 budget. So it's always a good reminder to know where those numbers come from. As we look on the next slide, I'll show you in a graphic way. The bar chart on slide 4 shows you really where these dollars are being deployed. And this has a little bit of our budget collapse. The tallest bar is capital projects, which consist of the capital construction budget line item, the capital maintenance budget line item, and local roads administration line item. So 3 budget categories combined to be $1.2 billion, which is about 49% of the total state budget going to do capital projects. And so that's really important. The next tallest bar there you see is our routine maintenance budget, which is the stated good repair for our crews and contractors, again, to take care of the roadways, roadsides, the bridges, guardrail signs, all the things on the roadways, which constitutes about 21% of the budget. And you can see the stair step on down. I won't go through each one of those. I'll take a little bit deeper look on the budget itself on the next slides. And as we move into the budget itself for 24, I'm just going to highlight the things where there are changes. And as you've heard from the first 2 presenters today, thank you, and thank the governor for the cost of living, 4% that's put in there. We are seeing our retention numbers stabilize as well. So these ads over the last 2-3 years have made a difference in the trajectory where we're going down. We've been able to sort of flatten out. So thank you all for that consideration and that continued support for staffing. Over on slide 5, we'll get into the meat of the budget. And again, just sort of highlighting the changes outside of all the basic changes to personnel. The top line there, and what we have is, if you look down the left side, you'll see the budget program. And that first slide I showed you with the different fund sources, we are tableizing this so you can see by fund source how much is in the base and how much the change is. So I'll just call your attention first to bond debt. Obviously, with interest rates being what they are, we did have a $3.48 million increase in bond debt service. So you can see that change. The next line is that capital construction budget. That is doing projects. If you think about advancing projects and getting projects out the door and built, that is in capital construction, which happens to be in 347.1 in the governor's document. You see an add of $16.4 million combined, and that goes to just like what we had in the amended budget to help deliver the pipeline of projects we have due to these increased costs that we have shared with you. So that's where a good portion of dollars are going. And then down in capital maintenance, the next row down, you can see a $35.3 million add. Again, this is going toward trying to cover the increased cost. And also, it's a little bit of a budget correction from previously. In prior year, we were using some federal funding, more federal funding that we had, some of the COVID funding in capital construction. This sort of gets our budget back to where we were about $200 million with state dollars, and then we leverage the maximum federal we can in the capital maintenance category. It's a lot easier to advance federally the capital maintenance projects than some of the capital construction projects. I'll just call your attention down to the very bottom of this table, departmental admin. Beside the cost of living and everything, out of the $6.3 million, about $3.7 million is baked in to continue to work with our increased IT cost as systems and security and all those things happen, and also it's going toward an upgrade of one of our main database systems. So that was an important add there. On the next slide is slide 6. Just call your attention to the LMIG, the Local Maintenance Improvement Grant. The $7.3 million is representative to bring that total of $220.1 million to be 10% of the excise collections. That is bringing us in line to be in compliance there. And as you recall, is in the amended year, there was a $250 million add to local governments in a different budget category. But this is a fantastic, again, a fantastic budget number for the LMIG program. Let me get down to planning. There was, in the planning, if you look at the $2 million in the middle of the page, transportation trust funds, this is a little bit of a redirect for the dollars that were going over to the ATL, and Director Miller can speak to this more. But coming back over to GDOT planning to work with the MPOs, 16 metropolitan planning organizations around the state for administering more federal programs, and for Janine and her team at as Director of Planning at GDOT to work with those MPOs in administering those funds. Let me go down the list to draw to your attention. Program delivery, second to the bottom down there, out of the $7.6 million, there's about a $4 million add that was in Amendment 24 that's carrying over, that really sort of annualizes our increased cost in delivering projects and staffing to support the staffing levels in the program delivery area. That's where project managers, program managers reside there. And then at the very bottom of the table is rail. And just a little bit about rail. Out of the $4.7 million, there was a $3.4 million add that was the adjustment in the locomotive diesel sales tax. So $3.4 million was added. Just as a reminder, locomotive diesel sales tax is appropriated to the rail program. And so that was the adjustment. That was the bulk of the adjustment. The other small adjustments there were to basically annualize our requirements to monitor MARTA's heavy rail. So the MARTA trains, we have a duty through FTA to monitor the safety operations of MARTA, or rail operations, and also a little over $1 million for us just to administer the rail program outside of the locomotive diesel program. So that is a pretty good add to the $3.4 million. This is a pretty significant add there. So I'll call your attention. Slide 7, moving very quickly. Routine maintenance, as I talked about earlier. Out of the $34.5 million, 27.4 is going to work on more contracting and the increased cost of contracting. We've shared with the Transportation Committee just those increased costs, just like construction happens in maintenance. But out of that 34.5, 27.4, the balance of that is all due to the COLAs and insurance and all those other things. And then transit, let me call your attention to the transit. It's got the circle around it. $32.4 million, which is pretty robust. An $8.8 million add for those transit trust funds, that rideshare fee I talked about earlier. So the bulk of these dollars go to do several things. One, we use part of that to match federal funding from FTA. A portion of that goes to the Transit Trust Fund formula to basically formula distribution to the transit providers outside the ATL boundary, outside their boundary, for them to provide more and enhanced transit service or enhance their operations. And then the other part of that goes to the ATL, for the ATL to use those transit, and the largest share of that transit trust fund actually goes to the ATL for their priorities established by the board. So that was in transit. Down at the bottom of the table, I'll just call your attention to the payments to the ATL. The $1.9 million is a little bit reflective of what I shared with you in planning, the $2 million. It's an offset of $2 million going over to planning program, and the difference is the COLA and the cost of living offsets that to be about $1.9 million in the payments to ATL. In payments to CERTA, this is a good news story. You can see a reduction of $19.3 million in payments to CERTA, and that is due to bonds falling off, guaranteed revenue bonds, debt service. We've ended that, so that was previously paying debt service. That one debt issuance has been satisfied, so we no longer have to put $19.3 million toward that.
What project was that for?
Those are for a myriad of projects
Okay.
over time. So what leaves the roughly 25, almost $26 million can be looked at in two ways. About $12 million pays for a different type of debt service called Garvey, which is a federal debt service. And then about $13 million of that goes to the Georgia Transportation Infrastructure Bank for the CERTA to administer. And
Going back up to the planning, the $2 million kind of shift, is that contemplating the proposed change to the ATL, or would that happen regardless of if that passes this session, which I know the House had contemplated?
My understanding is that happens regardless, not anything to do with the ATL. It's, again, the planning functions of planning, working with our 16 MPOs around the state. There are so many new federal programs, and then also just the strategy for our staff at GDOT and Director Miller's staff in planning to work with those MPOs and be really strategic about making investments sort of on the state highway system in those MPO boundaries. MPOs are very interesting. By federal law, they do the planning, so GDOT does not pick the projects in the MPO boundaries, so I like to remind people of that. But we can be certainly always great partners and help the MPOs and work with the MPOs and work on bigger priorities too.
Great. Any questions? I'm disappointed nobody asked, like, how did you choose what suit you're going to wear on the cover of the magazine, or,
Great question, Mr. Chairman.
I mean, opportunity presents itself and y'all are just asleep at the wheel.
We're just overwhelmed by
I
positives.
Understood.
All right.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, you
Thank
and your
you.
team. I know you and your team are always available to us to help us and our constituents as they're dealing with anything from potholes to questions about expansion of infrastructure. And best of luck getting those projects out the door on the additional funding that we did receive. And I know you guys are hard at work doing that as well.
Indeed. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Last but most certainly not least, we have Janine Miller. Janine, as you're walking up, I know you know Martha Grace. I'm going to share with you, she said to me, Janine is a girl boss. She's like runs the whole government. She should run for president someday. So there you go.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I could, I wanted to make sure that I know, our fair-haired star over there gets a little bit of pump, but I want to read this. Ms. Miller has received numerous recognitions, including Notable Georgian, one of the state's top 40 under 40, Best and Brightest by Georgia Trend Magazine, Champion for Transportation by Perimeter CID, and honored as one of the most influential in Georgia engineering by Georgia ACEC. So I'm saying she's no slouch. I mean, I'm saying, look.
We probably need walk-in music
maybe a
next time or
team here.
something.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Chairman.
Thank you for
Appreciate
being
that.
here this
Thank you,
morning.
Senators. I've just been very, very fortunate and blessed to work with and for many great leaders in our state, and I love transportation, in case you can't tell. So I'm going to try to keep it short, but pardon me if I speak about this thing that I love that's so important to our economy and to our communities. So in Section 41, of course, the GDOT budget, there's...
Just a quick question. Are you working off the governor's budget or the House budget?
Yes, sir, I'm working off the governor's
The
budget.
governor's budget.
Yes,
governor's
sir.
budget.
Is there not a House budget, Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to recognize Chairman Burns for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just wondering, is there not a House budget available?
Maybe step out in the hallway and see if you see a House budget walking around out there.
I'm sorry, I see nothing, Mr. Chairman.
What day is it today?
Let me see, what did we say? It was day, what?
30.
30,
Wow.
that's right. Oh, okay.
10 days left. All right. Sorry, just wanted to clarify. You're working off the governor's budget.
I am, and I presume that whenever the House budget does arrive, that it will be in the same posture, being that these are all transportation trust funds. None of these are state general funds, as you contemplate our budgets going forward here. So, in Section 41, lines 360 is the ATL budget, and 361 is CERTA. So I'll talk first about CERTA. Of course, the commissioner mentioned that there's a $19 million reduction for debt service payments, but the remaining balance of $25.8 million are for GTIB loans and grants, as well as debt service on the remaining GRB and GARVI. Those are transportation bonds, some of which are backed with federal funds. And then a very small portion, a little under $360,000 for GRETA, Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, which performs two functions today. One is the approval on behalf of the governor of Atlanta Regional Commission's TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, their short-range plan, as well as the transportation review of developments of regional impact. So that is what remains at GRETA, Georgia Regional Transportation Authority. But our bright shining star are toll roads. So on the next slide, slide 3, I want to talk with you about the additional use and ridership we've had of our express toll lanes. If you have a Peach Pass, you are hopefully familiar with your opportunities to use that on our express toll lanes. On I-75 in the South Corridor, as well as Northwest Corridor, and of course our flagship I-85, where we converted the HOV to hot lanes more than a decade ago. That's been our highest performer, but overall we've come out of the pandemic quite well, climbing from 18.6 million trips in the depths of the pandemic up to 28.3 million trips, and we're very excited to be able to provide that opportunity in those congested corridors for these for commuters and travelers alike. In case you're not aware, you can use your Peach Pass in Sun Pass lanes in Florida, Quick Pass in North Carolina, and as of earlier this year, Easy Pass lanes all throughout the rest of the country. So we have that interoperability both for those Easy Pass customers to use our facilities and for our Peach Pass customers to travel throughout the country and seamlessly use those facilities. All right, on to the ATL budget. There's 13.1 million of, again, transportation trust funds. Thankful, as we all agency heads are, for the governor's leadership on cost of living increases for our staff to retain and recruit great employees. And then we also are seeing this $2 million reduction. I'm going to explain to you how we're going to be able to absorb that, or why we need to take that cut to the ATL budget. And if you flip over to the next slide, slide 5 shows the ridership on Express. Now, Express is a commuter bus system. I'm going to show you the map here in a few minutes on another slide. But we were at 7,600 daily boardings before the pandemic. That's when commutes were a more regular pattern of 9 to 5. Many job sites within the city core were served by this important service. It was a reliable commute option for many Georgians every day. It is not recovered, of course, in the depths of the pandemic. The work from home was the way that most folks got the job done. And really, it's still stayed in that sort of space, whether it's work from home or just an alternate schedule. So our buses run in the morning out from the suburbs into the city center, and then in the afternoon/evenings out from the city center back to the suburbs. That's a regimented schedule that many people are not on anymore. And this is why we believe the service has not come back to its previous pre-pandemic levels. So we have had steady increases, but we feel like we're capping out. And we do believe it's not a result of the quality of the service. It remains a reliable commute for those who ride it, but it's just not serving the new commute patterns that we're seeing throughout the state today.
Can I ask you a quick question about that?
Yes, sir.
My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that actual vehicle traffic during peak times has returned to pre-pandemic levels. Is that accurate?
I believe so. Commissioner can advise on that more. It's what we've also seen, though, is the peak hour, the rush hour, has spread throughout the day, and that is part of the evidence of that is the higher use of the toll lanes throughout the day. The traffic is back. Commutes are back. They're just not back on the express service.
Just find it interesting because this is looking at average daily boardings, which would be peak and off-peak, and it's half. It's less than half, actually.
That's right.
Than what it was. So I do wonder if seemingly people in cars are going back to work.
That's right.
So it'd be interesting to know, and I'm not asking you if you know this today, but have people shifted to more car travel for some reason post-pandemic, or certainly these? I would expect the work from home numbers, if it was the only reason for that, to show up in the actual car numbers as well.
That's right. Because this service is not an all-day service like the MARTA bus or the Gwinnett buses run throughout the communities all day. This is just a morning into an area and then in the afternoon back out. Those work schedules are even different. Even if they would want to ride it, they might not be able to get back home in the afternoon because of the scheduling that we have. So we have done an analysis because this is, to me, important that we figure this out because these are taxpayer dollars, whether they're federal or state monies, going toward a service. We do know that there is still, as you're pointing out, a lot of commuting that's going on, more commuting probably than ever with the job growth that we've had and the population growth. So we've done, starting to display it here on slide 6, what we've called redefining the ride, to right-size the commuter service, finding efficiencies on the existing routes, consolidation where we can, but also responding to new cross-county commute patterns. There are in-person employment centers, those folks who don't have the opportunity to have flexible schedules or to work from home, that need to be at manufacturing plants, transportation hubs, healthcare sites, education facilities, that are robust jobs for folks throughout Metro Atlanta and beyond that don't have service today. A lot of them might be in Fulton and DeKalb and Clayton counties, but those workers need to come into those job sites from outside those 3 counties. So we've taken a look at what the data is showing, and if you turn over to slide 7, you'll see lit up there in the yellows, oranges, and reds are concentrations of in-person employment. And where there is a hashtag, those folks are less likely to be able to work from home for those in-person job sites. Example employers are UPS, the airport, Delta Airlines, area hospitals such as the Perimeter Center where there's a density of those. Emory is another example. So we have done analysis to indicate that there are opportunities to serve those job sites with smaller scale service, and a lot of work still needs to be done to understand what kind of shift work is occurring at those places, when are the start times, when are the end times, and making sure that those employers are interested in helping support that commuter service for their workers, again, from outside of the 3 core MARTA counties. So Our initial analysis is indicating on slide 8 what this new service per this redefining the ride would look like. Today we have 27 routes. We would reduce our existing service from 27 to 10 routes. That comes from consolidating park and ride lots predominantly, and I'll show you where those are in a moment. But we would also curtail the service. Instead of coming all the way into the city center for those existing routes, drop folks off at the outer MARTA stations. Again, I'll show you that map in a moment. The purpose of that is if there's a reliable commute in this metro area, it's on MARTA rail. Those trains arrive on time. There's no congestion in front of them. They're well maintained. They're an incredible service, and why would we not take advantage of that for our riders, especially on the downtown connector? Those buses get caught in traffic just like cars do. We can drop folks off at the MARTA stations and give them the reliable commute into their job site. But also, our buses tend to drop off around the downtown area and Civic Center, and even up into Midtown. But throughout the MARTA network, there's no other ability for our riders from these suburbs to access job sites on the rest of the MARTA line. For instance, if we're going to drop off folks at the Indian Creek MARTA station, all of a sudden they have the ability to get to jobs that are all along the East Line. That's in Avondale, that's in Decatur, that's in Candler Park, that's on the Belt Line. Now, all of a sudden they have access to job sites there if we're dropping them off at the MARTA site. So there's all kinds of opportunities to be more efficient and have better opportunities for our riders. There's this thing called reverse commutes in the transit world. That is simply going from the folks who live in the city out to suburbs. So availing those jobs in the suburbs to people who live in the city center. And then the new market opportunities, that's that in-person employment center. So this was what the transition would look like, and the new system on slide 9, where you can see the existing routes going to where we would consolidate park and ride lots and drop off folks at the MARTA station. That is why we believe we can absorb this $2 million cut this year. And it will take us time to both reduce the existing service. There are a cadre of federal requirements we have to comply with. Otherwise, we will have to repay dollars to the federal government and be subject to audit findings. So we need to follow those federal requirements to do this, and it takes some time. You can't flip a switch next week or whenever the House might give you a budget that you approve. It will take some time. But to both reduce the service and to start up these new opportunities for the in-person employment centers and those jobs. That concludes my presentation. Chair and Senators, happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to recognize Chairman Halpern first on number 9.
Thank you. This is really great. A question for you, because I know in other states or other even metropolitan regions, that relationship between kind of one transit service and another transit service is starting to collapse more. So I love the idea of what you're talking about here, and wondering just from a pricing standpoint, if there becomes then kind of a card, I don't know, I want to say Metro card, but place that you're paying, and that card, ticket, whatever, is usable then throughout the system, even if you're moving from your express to MARTA, that there's really a built-in relationship amongst all of the partners in that case.
Excellent question. We do have that today. Big part of that is thanks to MARTA, but also the ATL's work. This is before I arrived, being able to work with all of the various providers, the Gwinnett, Ride Gwinnett, CobLink, and other providers around, to accept the Breeze card. Mm-hmm. And there's also Breeze Mobile, so there's an app on your phone that you can type in and download it with a QR code. Will enable you to use one payment method for all of your trips. We don't have one fare policy. That is a difficult thing to get through, and we have to work with our providers, our other service providers, and work closely with MARTA, which I do. We're going to be engaging in that so that it's a simpler fare policy understanding for riders. But this dropping off at MARTA will reduce the fare for those who take those routes.
That's great.
Chairman Ginn, did you have a follow-up?
I don't.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This summer, I attended not one but 2 different MARTOC meetings where we talked about the bus-only lanes that they're being deployed in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And, for me, you can't stop Atlanta from doing what Atlanta wants to do on their private or their city streets. Well, we can only control what we do on state highways. But one of the things that they were suggesting at that point was they're going to have a bus-only lane, and it's going to be monitored by cameras. Said and every time that an individual in an automobile gets into that lane, the first offense, I believe, was going to be $75. The fine would go up to $150 if an automobile got into that bus-only lane. They needed a change in state law in order to do that. And then they went on to tell me that the bus-only lanes, there would only be one bus every 10 minutes going by. And of course, they said that kind of quick, so I pointed it out. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You're telling me we're going to take 4 lanes of road, we're going to cut it down to 3, one of them's going to be a bus only. You're going to have a bus go by every 10 minutes. Said and if a car who decides that, hey, I could go a little faster if I can go in that lane over there, goes into that lane, automatically they get a hit with a video camera ticket at $75, goes up to $150. What's going on with that? Said what's the that just doesn't make any sense to me. It's one of those things that doesn't sound like a good use of transportation dollars, and how do we prevent that from happening as a state legislature? Because for me, I get people that call me with the cameras that have been put up in school zones that, there is no recourse on those. If you don't pay it, you're going to get your driver's license revoked. There's a lot of problems with that. And this one where we're going to use a lane once every 10 minutes for a bus, I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, that is not an express bus or a state-operated service, first of all, and those are on City of Atlanta streets, and the one that is under construction right now. I wouldn't dare opine about cameras and use of lanes in that way. I can tell you what is great about that bus rapid transit service itself is that for a fraction of the cost of rail, we get a bus service that is reliable for that corridor and those neighborhoods there that's affordable. The use of the lane, how many buses are there, whether cars can use it or not, those are policy decisions that would go outside of my ability to opine. I have not analyzed it.
Chairman Dixon.
Yeah, just wondered, I guess Gwinnett being my home county, curious, is there collaboration with drop-off and pick-up points with the Gwinnett transit system?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yep.
And then are y'all taking into, I guess you wouldn't until we've got it on the ballot this year to expand, especially the local pick-up and drop-off points?
They have, Gwinnett County Board of Commissioners has gone through all of the steps necessary, and I believe they're preparing for a November ballot initiative for a transit service, and I think their website has information about that. Yeah. They will have that bus rapid transit as part of their proposal, again, because it's enabled at a fraction of the cost. But I've seen other cities where bus rapid transit works really, really well because there are many, many, many buses using that lane. It's a concentration, a density of service that does, when it is bus only in those lanes, if there's lots of buses, it is very, very efficient.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Director, you going to talk to us about CERTA today as well?
Anything else you'd like to know about CERTA? We can tell you.
Necessarily. I don't know if you had a presentation or not. It was just on the agenda, so.
I had a slide in there about the transit trips. I'm sorry, about the toll lane trips.
That was, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And I don't have any information today on the infrastructure bank. We're 10 years into the infrastructure bank, and last year I'm very excited to say that we were able to support more rural projects than we've ever been able to support, and also support CIDs, which was the original. Only one CID, which was the original intent of the infrastructure banks. We've been working with the CIDs to engage them more and hopefully have their applications in for the GTIB loans and grants.
Great. Any other questions from the committee? Thank you all for being here early, and thank you all for presenting. And we will diligently get to work on your budgets as soon as we get a House budget.
As soon as we get a House budget, Mr.
I think it's probably appropriate to maybe adjourn and we can all go look for a House budget and see if we find it.
Move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.